It's time to get in the game.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Get in the Game podcast, the podcast where we explore ways to get off the sidelines, stop making excuses, and get in the game. I'm your coach, Trevor Dean, and today we're going to be talking about our talents and abilities. Now, I know I mentioned these things in different episodes before, but we're going to spend the whole time today talking about our talents, abilities, the interests God has given us and put on our hearts, what we can do with those, where they come from, and how we can use them in our lives to glorify God and to help others. So I'm going to start off with a story that I used to tell when I was with FCA before. But a few years back, I was at a birthday party for the daughter of one of my friends. And it was in the middle of July. It was really hot, even though it was kind of in the later afternoon. But at this party, they had a big blow-up water slide that a lot of the kids ended up just spending hours on. And as they were doing that, the parents sat around in like a little half circle on kind of in front of it. At the bottom of it, there was a big pool that so when they slid down to, they end up splashing in the pool. So, back off a little bit in front of it, there's a little half circle of all the parents who were there watching their children, a lot of them who were cousins and then friends as well, just have a great time. Just laughing, playing, joking around, doing what kids are supposed to be doing at a birthday party on a big water slide. That's what they should be doing. And it got me thinking that as I'm watching this, and I don't have any kids there, I'm not a father. I didn't bring any of my nieces or nephews. They didn't know the birthday girl. But as I'm there, I'm observing the parents. Not only like they're in conversation with the other parents, but they're just sitting there and they're enjoying watching their children have a good time. They're watching their children do what they're supposed to be doing what children do, especially when that sort of stuff's in front of them. When there's a water slide and it's hot and there's a way to cool off and have fun and just be around their cousins and friends. It brought so much joy to these parents' lives, and I thought, how much more joy does God get out of when we do what we're supposed to do? When we're doing what He created us to do and created us to be, how much joy does He get from that? And it made me think, and so I used to use that and talk to people about it, like saying that we have these talents and abilities, what do we do with them? And so we have, like I said, we have talents and abilities, and we have interests and passions and stuff that we want to do. Where do they come from? Well, we were given these things by God to use not only for His glory, but for the benefit of others and for ourselves. Now, He put us on this earth to not only glorify Him, but to also love others. When Jesus was asked, what the greatest commandment is, He said that it's to love God first with all your heart, soul, mind, strength, all that stuff. That we are supposed to love God first. But then He said, and then this one is equally as important, to love your neighbor as yourself. So God put us on this earth to love Him and love others. And we can show Him love, show God love by loving others. So when I say that we have these talents and abilities and where they come from, well, they were given, they come from God. We were created by Him with a certain amount of talent, ability in our lives and a certain spirit. And I use that as like, the spirit is our mindset, what we want to do, how our temperament is, all those sort of things. That's our spirit. We were created in a certain way that we now need to use those things to love others and to love Him. So our anchor verse has always been for this podcast not just this episode, but the full podcast itself, is Colossians 3:23. Whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord rather than for men. So we know that whatever we do, we need to do it for God. Everything we do is for God, but that doesn't always mean that God's the only benefactor. Others are the benefactor as well. When we use our talents and stuff, we can reach others for Him. When people ask why you work so hard, or why you do this, or why is it that you can speak to all these people, like what gets you going, and it can spark a conversation that can always lead back to God. And say, you know what, I could never do these things without the talent and ability that God has given me to do these things. And I work hard, or I'm able to speak, or I'm able to play this sport, whatever, because God's given me that ability. He's blessed me in such a way that all that glory goes to Him. But see, when we do that, the person we're talking to gets the gospel. They're that benefactor. They're that person that you're reaching now, that you're showing love to, which is then showing love to God, because love God, love others. You can also, if what comes to mind right now is my one of my brothers, or two of my brothers actually teach music. But as they do that, they have a talent for not only playing the instrument, but also teaching the instrument. So as they do that, they can mentor that ability and that talent in other people. In life, I truly believe we need mentors, and we need to be mentored. And it's not an age thing. Sometimes it's a talent thing. Sometimes it is an experience thing. There are people who are younger than me who are way better in business that I could learn a lot from and be mentored by. And then there's other people who are older than me that I can, maybe I might have more experience in the coaching realm or profession, and help mentor them. But I also need both. I need to be able to mentor, young or old, whoever it may be, but I also need to be able to be mentored. And it doesn't always have to be in the same thing. It could be in different parts of your life. But one way we can reach others through this is we can use it to teach and to help mentor the next person who wants that ability, who wants to cultivate that kind of talent or ability in their life. But it also helps in a way, like it might help if it's part of your vocation, if it's part of your job where you're able to use your talents and abilities. It also helps to provide for your family. So that's one way we can use our talents and stuff to benefit others. We work because we are obedient to God, and we do it for Him, and we ask that He bless us in that obedience. But the benefactor is your family, because they're the ones you're providing for. And I said we might also be the benefactor of it as well. And so some of us might not have a family that we have to provide for, but it's a means of, it could be a means of income. It could be a source of happiness for you. Using your talent, even when you are using it to reach others, can bring you happiness. It's just that pure enjoyment of stuff. And possibly, depending on how things are, and I think it's a very good possibility, is it's a way to be obedient. When we have these talents or abilities in our lives and we're saying, like, what am I going to do with it? I need to use it for, one, because I've been gifted it, and I need to use it for God, because when you're given something, to let it waste is almost like an insult or a slap in the face to whoever was giving it to you. What I just thought of was, like, if you say you want to play baseball, like when you're a kid, and you have an old glove and you really like it, but then someone, a parent, aunt, uncle, grandparent, get you a brand new awesome baseball mitt and you really like it and it's great, it's everything that the other one isn't, but then you take it and you just put it up on a shelf. And not for any other reason that you just let it waste away. It's a slap in the face to the people who got that for you, knowing you wanted to get better, you wanted to go on and play the sport, and you could be a little kid, it didn't matter, you don't have to be an adult wanting to play baseball, but you took that gift of something great and you just put it up on the shelf. Not for any other reason that you just were lazy about it. It's a slap in the face. And so this is a way for us to be obedient, using our talents, using these abilities that God has gifted us to glorify Him and to reach others. But you got to realize there's always, talent and abilities don't always come super supernaturally. And I don't mean that as a supernatural, but like they're not always so natural to the person who has them. There's always going to be a learning curve. In that, you have to be willing to fail or do poorly in order to cultivate that talent or ability. And I mentioned it before, but professional athletes, they have to be able to take what they have and work with it. And if they don't, if they just have a natural talent, a natural rhythm about the sport they play or the instrument that they play, they have rhythm, but then they never use, if they're, and I say the rhythm, like if they are a musician. So athletes or musicians, if they take that natural talent that they have and never work on it, and they always just show up for the performance or the competition, if it's a sporting event, they're never going to get as to that level of expertise or the heightened level that they should if they aren't working on it. Where they would get there quicker and learn more if they're spending day in and day out working on their craft, their skill, getting better, so that the competition or the performance is where they get to show off and not where they have to practice. If you're using competition for practice, then it's going to take a long, long time for you to get to that expert level. You have to take it and be able to use every day or every practice or every time you step into whatever it is you're doing. It could be athletes, it could be the professional world, even this podcast. If I just spend the day of working on this podcast, which I'm not going to lie, sometimes I do, it's not going to be as good as if I worked on it all during the week or multiple weeks. And then, because you could be working on a few different things at a time, but if I'm not researching the way that I need to be, then it's going to take me a lot longer to get to the point where I am comfortable in everything that I do. And I feel like this is the 28th episode. I'm pretty comfortable talking to you guys now. I feel like I'm able to kind of just do this in one actual take, as I'm recording. The first couple were pretty rough. Sometimes it'd be 5, 6, 7 takes. But for the most part, most of these I can do in one take because I've written down notes. I've taken down the scriptures, but I'm practicing at it. Can I do more? Absolutely. And I should be doing more to give you the best product possible. And I say that humbly, saying that there's a learning curve for it. And if I'm not going to put in the time necessary, then I'm never going to be as good as I should be and as good as you deserve if I'm not putting it in. Now, I'm still using this hopefully to reach people for God, but am I using my talent and my ability in the right fashion. And I truly think when I talk about this for the podcast, like I do think I have a talent for coaching. Now, most of my coaching has been in the athletic field, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't transfer to this sort of medium. So you can't just sit on your ability or even an interest and expect your expertise to grow in that field. And that takes me to the parable of the talents. And I've used this before, so I'm going to use it again. It's in Matthew. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's Matthew chapter 25, verses 14 through 30. Basically, there's this landowner, and he has 3 servants that basically he's going away, and he has these 3 servants to take this money that he has and use it. He wants them to basically do business, grow my company, grow my money, whatever it may be. And the things were actually called talents. And back then, a talent was a denomination of money. So it was a bunch of money. So of the 3 servants, the first one had 5 talents. The second servant had 2 talents, I believe. Yeah, 2. And the last one had 1 talent. So 5, 2, and 1. The servant with 5 went out, made some deals, doubled the money, doubled his talents. Now he has 10 talents. The servant with 2 went out, did the same thing, doubled his money as well. Now he has 4 talents. But the one with 1 talent was scared because he knew that the business person, the landowner, was a harsh business person. And it says here that he gathered where he did not plant, he reaped where he did not sow. So basically, he made money almost wherever he went. So if he lost money, then it would be bad for him. That was his mindset. So what he did is he went out and he buried it in the ground and waited for his return. When the master came back, he then asked him what they had done with it, and the first servant says, I went out and I doubled your money. I have 10. Here you go. He goes, well done, good and faithful servant. And then he went to the second one. He said, same thing. What'd you do? Boom, doubled it. Well done, good and faithful servant. The last person said, I was afraid that I was going to lose money for you, so I didn't lose anything for you. I went out and buried it. Here's everything that is yours. And what he says in verse 26, it says, but his master answered and said to him, you wicked, lazy slave, you knew that I reap where I did not sow and gather where I scattered no seed. Then you ought to have at least put my money in the bank, and on arrival I would have received my money back with interest. So at least if you would have put it in the bank, I would have gotten interest on it, and I'd have at least more. You didn't even have to do anything. Just put it there, and I would have made money off it. But you didn't. Like, you're lazy. So then he takes whatever that 1 talent was, and he gave it to the servant who had 10. And it says, I'm going to read verse 28 and 29. And it says, therefore take away the talent from him and give it to the one who has the 10 talents. For to everyone who has, more shall be given, and he will have an abundance. But from the one who does not have, even what he does have shall be taken away. He right there, basically what I said is you can't just sit on your talent. You can't sit on your abilities and expect them to grow. They're going to be, if it's physical, I know that right now in terms of ability, right? I feel like because I haven't kept up with like playing volleyball, if I went out right now, my ability will not be exactly where it was when I stopped playing and even just stopped coaching just a few years ago, because I have not been working at it. So in a physical type of ability or talent, if you don't work on it, it's going to decrease. And I know that's what's happened. If I went out and tried to jump right now, I'd scare myself that I'd even have knees when I'm done with it. So you have to get out there and work on your talent and know that you might fail. Every single person in this parable had the possibility of it, of the two servants, who went out and actually tried to do business. They ran the risk of losing money. The only one who didn't risk anything was the guy who just buried the talent and said, I'm just going to wait till it gets back. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to make him mad. It's too much stress for me to go and try to make business deals. So I'm just going to bury it. And then when he gets back, hey, I didn't lose any money. But in the same way in our lives, in our actual talents and abilities, we have to be willing to put it on the line, to fail, to do poorly, to learn. That's how we get better. So we can't just sit there and do nothing. Use those talents for what he's given us. Go out there, make deals, practice, whatever it may be, use them, get better at them, double your talent, double your ability, use them for God's glory in that. And don't just sit on and bury your talent in the sand, because it doesn't glorify God and it definitely doesn't do anything for you. So many people I know have talent for so many things, but don't use them for God's will. They either keep it to themselves, or they say they have no time because they're bogged down with work or other responsibilities. So I'm going to say this right here, and I know that it might be easy for me to say, but work was never meant to be our whole life or to take up every waking moment of your day. Very few people in the grand scheme of things, grand scheme of the world, actually get to do exactly what they're most talented at, or have the greatest ability at. And I always come back to musicians and athletes, mainly because on the athlete side, we're all grown up. When we're growing up, they're always saying it's a game, it's just a sport, blah blah blah. But people actually get paid to do that. It's their vocation. It's their job. But that's very few and far between. And the same thing with musicians. They might love playing that instrument. They grew up playing it because it was a good thing to have or to understand. But they made it their job and their vocation. And there's very few people in the whole population of the world who make money off of being a musician. Sometimes work is just that. It's just work. And we need it in order to provide for our families or ourselves. But even in our everyday work, if it's not the thing that we say we have the most talent for or the best ability for, some of our talent and some of our ability is in that work we're doing. If not, we wouldn't be able to do it. We wouldn't have a job. Whether your ability is, whether you're in maybe construction or anything else, maybe you just have the ability to put things together in a neat, orderly fashion, and you're able to take a blueprint and put stuff together. That's a talent that other people don't have, even though that might not be the thing that you think you have the best talent for. But it's your job. Even Paul in the New Testament, who wrote most of the New Testament, he had a vocation. He reached so many people for God, for Jesus, and all around, all around the world, and he still had a vocation. He was a tent maker. When he needed to make money, he went and he made tents. That was what he did. But arguably, his true talent was not tent making. That's just what he did when he needed to provide for himself. His true talent was reaching people for Christ, because he had an encounter with Jesus that changed his life, and he wasn't gonna just sit around and do nothing about it. He had a calling. He felt God calling for him, and he said, "I am not looking back. I'll make tents when I need to make tents. When God is providing for me and I don't have to, then that's great. But when I need to provide for myself or to help others, I will do this." And that's got to be the same mindset we have. But he had a talent for making tents, obviously, because that's where he made his money. So we can't just say that like work is, I said work sometimes is just work, and it is. But remember, you still have some sort of talent or ability in order to do that job. We have other things in life that we're supposed to do also. I mentioned before, we're supposed to love others, tell others about the gospel, fellowship with them, mentor them, be mentored, etc. All those things, those are things that we actually, it tells us that we need to be doing that in the Bible. It's in this book, in this Bible. We can use the talents and abilities that God has given us to accomplish all of those things. We just have to be willing to be obedient. When we begin to serve the job instead of serving God, the job has become an idol in our lives. It's taken the place of God. It's the thing that we've begun to serve instead of God. That doesn't mean that we forego our job. It just means we need to put things in priority. Who are we doing it for? Back to Colossians 3:23. We need to be doing it for God and not for man. And man can be yourself. We get so caught up in the security of what the job can it means for us, that this is my sense of security. When if you're a Christian, your sense of security has nothing to do with your job. Has nothing to even do with your talents. It has everything to do with who God is and who he is to you. If Jesus is your Lord and Savior, that's your security. It's not your job. It's not your vocation. It's not the car or house you have. It's not the money coming in. It's Jesus Christ and Jesus Christ alone. That's your security. We can't say that we love God and never show him that we do. Love is not a feeling or an emotion that we can't control. It's not something that just comes in and comes out. And we're like, I don't love her anymore. Or I don't love him anymore. Or like, I'm not really feeling like I love that person that much. Love is a choice. It's an action. And if it weren't, then God wouldn't have commanded it in our lives. Love him and love others. That means we have to choose to do things that are loving for those people. And the reason I'm telling you this is because I do love you, and it's a hard, harsh reality that when you have an emotion towards someone, we use love for it, but that's not the way it is. We only love them when we show them that we love them. When we're willing to, in a married couple, when we're willing to do the little things, to rub her feet, even though you hate feet. That's a loving thing that I do, even though I do not like feet. I think they're one of the most disgusting parts of the human body, but I love my wife so much that when she needs her feet rubbed or tickled, I will do that. And it's only by the grace of God that I'm able to do that, because I love her. And I will do anything for her. I love her because I choose to love her. If I didn't love her, I would not show that act of love. My point is that we have to be intentional with our talents and our abilities, our interests, and our time. Ultimately, we should be using all of those for God's glory. When we don't, and we're using them for our own selfish reasons, then we're not only not bringing glory to God, but we're not showing him that we love him either. Love is very easy to say, but it must be met with action. And if we're not willing to meet it with action, then do we really love God? Do we really love that person? If you're not willing to do things to show someone that you love them, but you say it, do you really love them? Are you backing it up? I would venture a guess that if you heard the words "I love you" every single day from your spouse, but was never backed up with any action that proved that you love them, they would start doubting that you actually love them. The difference between them and God is God already knows your heart. You could say that you love him, but if you're not showing any kind of obedience, any kind of action towards loving him, then he knows your heart. And that might be scary for some of us, but it's the truth. We have to use love, or use our actions rather, for love. Those talents, abilities, everything, they're not meant for us just to take in and use just for ourselves. And, I'll just go like, for me, like, I struggle with this a lot. Every time I think about getting back into playing guitar, I start thinking, well, am I doing it just for me? Why do I want to play? And then I just have to realize, like, if I have a talent, then I need to do other things with it in order to show, hey, God gave me this talent. I'm not just going to sit here in the office with the door closed and play just for me. Yes, that can be a source of enjoyment, but then my talent is wasting away. My ability is wasting away. And I need to use it to bring him glory. And I can bring glory if I use it for worship. But I also need to use that if I'm going to go down that road, then I need to use it to reach others too. Or be willing to use it when it's in need, when other people need it. Because I've been in situations before like, hey, we need someone just to play guitar for worship tonight. And I'm like, it's not my kind of music. Well, is that the right attitude? No, not at all. Is it true? Yeah. It's not my favorite type of music to play. But I could do it. I could be obedient. I could use it to reach others. Use it to benefit others for God's glory. Just being real with you, that's stuff I struggle when I think about, like, do I want to get back into that? How am I going to use it? If I ever want to get back into coaching athletes, it can't just be about wanting to win championships. It's got to be about others and how am I going to glorify him? How am I going to glorify God? So this week, let's cultivate a routine of loving God through the talents and abilities that he's given us. I'm going to leave you with a couple questions. What are some of the talents and abilities that you have that you would like to develop in your life? 2, how are you going to use the talent or ability of yours to better your relationship with others and God this week and the weeks after? As always, thank you so much for tuning in. That's all I got for you this week. I'm praying for you. I love you guys. I'd love to hear from you, especially on this one. I asked those questions I asked. If you want to hit me up on Instagram or Twitter or anything else like that, hit me up. Let me know what talents and abilities that you have that you'd like to develop in your life. And 2, how are you going to use those to better your relationship with others and with God in this week coming and the weeks after? Because we don't want it to just be a one-time thing. We want it to continue in our lives. Cultivate a routine. Thanks again for tuning in. As always, let's get off the sidelines, stop making excuses, and get in the game. Talk to you later. Peace.
Get in the game. Thank you for listening to the Get in the Game podcast. Please take a second to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. That's the best way to support us. Find us on YouTube and subscribe for more content. If you would like for us to pray for you, or if you have topics that you would like us to tackle in upcoming episodes, email us at getinthegamepodcast@gmail.com. That's getinthegamepodcast@gmail.com. Or hit us up on Twitter and Instagram at getinthegamepc. If you've experienced getting off the sidelines and getting into the game yourself, please let us know. And remember, it's time to get in the game.